All right, wonderful. That is our fantastic voice of recording. All right. Oh, jumping ahead a little fast there. As is typical, we are thrilled to welcome you all here. We're very excited about today's topic and conversation. But we do have a few house rules that we hold ourselves and everyone who partakes in our mug to. That is that this is intended to be a safe place for open conversation, honest learning, and a place to be able to share use cases comfortably. So we ask that you not contact members about their use case outside of today's session. This is also not a place for self-promotion or pitching. So if you do have an AI related product, this is not the place. Please contact us if you are interested in the session, but let's make sure that we give our speaker today's opportunity to showcase what they've been working on, because we're really excited to see how Workato is using Gen AI inside. We always try to bring the best and most informative, up-to-date content that we can, and we love to have folks join, not even just within the Chicagoland area. You'll see many of our sessions are virtual, and so a lot of the folks that are on our calls, especially today, are not necessarily based in Chicago. So feel free to join the Chicago Mug on the Bevy site to stay up to date for the sessions that we have upcoming. Now, a couple of quick things to call out. Adobe Summit is coming up quickly already. That went fast. It is at the end of March. Just like in the last couple of years, there will be both the in-person sessions and the virtual conference. So if you are not able to make it in person to Vegas, still go online and register. The online version is free, so you can pick and choose your sessions there. But similarly, some of those sessions that are happening live on stage may not be available in real time. It'll be the keynotes and sort of things, and then some of the recordings will be after the fact, but it still gives you an opportunity to make sure that you're not missing out on the great content there. One other thing I wanted to call out, Adobe is hosting an upcoming Person Score webinar. It's next week on Thursday. I will drop the link to that in the chat box in just a moment here. But this is on creating a global scoring model. So you will see that coming through. In addition, I don't have a slide on it, but the Marketo January release webinar, I believe, is next week as well. So if you might have that in your inbox already. If not, I will also grab the link to that, but that'll be the release notes webinar. A few other upcoming mugs. You'll see a couple of topics here. Some are going to be in-person meetings. Some are virtual. The Champions Office Hours is one to highlight. That is actually tomorrow. So if you have not registered for that, that is a great open conversation to ask any question that you'd like of a Marketo champion, learn a little bit about use cases or some of the ideas that they might have, or things that the champions are putting into practice in their own instances. The North American Virtual Mug is also doing a two-part series on expert tips to save you time in your instance. That is another virtual one that will be recorded, but a great session to have on your radar. And then a couple of the international ones coming up here as well, end of the month and beginning of February. That is really all that I have for today in terms of kicking off our session. At this point, I would love to turn this over to and welcome Michael Fan, the Director of Marketing Operations over at Workato, to talk to us a little bit today about generative AI and how he is putting that into practice over in his own marketing ops world. Michael?
Well, yeah, no, thank you so much, Brooke and Andy, for having me. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Cool. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. Awesome. Yeah, so today, really wanted to just talk about how we drive growth with automation and AI at Workato. And just to do a brief intro about myself. So I'm the Director of Marketing Ops at Workato. I've been here for around 5 years. I'm actually not based in Chicago. I'm based in the Bay Area. So if you guys want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's a QR code to connect with me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining, and really excited to kind of just share some of the use cases that we've built internally today. And I think, sorry, I think like what I'm really trying to get out of most of like these sessions is really just sharing like what we've built internally and um not only just that, but just really like how can we help each other as like a community to just like improve ourselves within marketing ops. So I have 4 use cases to kind of go through today. Feel free to stop me at any time or just pop questions within the chat. But yeah, let's get started. Cool. So just very quick intro of Workato. For those that don't know what Workato is, we're an enterprise automation and integration platform, and we pretty much enable businesses to connect their applications and automate workflows. And so these are just some of the logos that many go-to-market teams are using us for. And we have over 1,000 pre-built connectors that allow you to build like custom workflows, automate repetitive tasks, and also build any type of like powerful workflow that like helps you move the needle for your business. Cool. So the first use case that I wanted to go through today, internally we call this Google Interesting Moments. And for all of the use cases today, everything touches Marketo as a tech stack. And so this one is really cool. So what this does is within the tech stack involvement, it touches Marketo, it touches Visible, Slack, Outreach, and Salesforce. And so what what we do today is the pain is kind of we have so much intent data and it's really hard to like operationalize and act on it. And especially for sales reps, it's a really difficult thing for them to like jump from application to application and find all of this data across systems and act on it within real time. And so what we've done is we use Workato internally to kind of leverage this intent data to drive pipeline for us. And so what this is every single person within our Marketo database, they're cookied by either Marketo or Visible. And in tandem with our paid advertising Google Ads motion, any single person that clicks on an ad that is within our database, we know exactly once they search for a specific ad because they're cookied. And so in this example, when anyone in our database goes to Google, types any specific keyword that we're actually bidding on, and they click on that ad, as soon as they click on that ad, Visible will generate a touch point within Salesforce, which then Workato triggers off of. And what we do is we give them 5 minutes. So once they click on the ad and they hit our landing page, if they don't fill out a form and they drop off within 5 minutes, what we'll actually do is we'll take that keyword that they typed within Google search and directly insert that into an automated outreach sequence that we send on behalf of our SDRs. And so in this example, you can see that someone actually went to Google, typed in integration software. And what we do is like, we just pull all of their data because they're cookied within Marketo. And then we just, drag and drop like their keyword into the subject line as well as the body of the email. So these are some of the examples that we're running today. And so as you can see, like the integration software examples on the left, another example is on the right. And this is really cool. It's helped us generate a lot of pipeline, and this is all automated just with one single workflow. Um, and I think why this is so important is like going back to like the intent data piece. These are folks that are searching for like these keywords, and then they hit our landing pages, and then within 5 minutes, if they don't fill out a form, we're hitting them up with exactly what they typed into Google search. So I kind of just want to stop there and play like a fun game. So we have a couple of metrics. This is all within the previous fiscal year. Maybe if everyone can just like type a number within the chat of what you think our open rate and reply rates for this campaign would be. No guesses? Cool. I see a lot of numbers coming in, 15, 35, 60, 30.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, of course.
So you say that you give them 5 minutes to respond or to fill out the form. Is there a way to check if they are just like a instant bounce, so they clicked on the wrong link or anything like that, to confirm just how long they were and kind of break out by segmentation in that regard?
Yeah, I that's a great question. I don't think we're able to do that today because Marketo is not able to store the time that they spend on a specific web page. Um, so I don't think we're able to do that today. But what we do is for all of the people that come in, we actually like filter out like current customers, partners, like specific like titles, lines of businesses, and things like that. So you can at least filter out those. So uh, for the leads that you want to reach out to.
Thank you.
Yep, cool. So our open rate for this was actually 68%, and our reply rate was 30%. And so this is, I think, pretty high. I think like the traditional outbound campaign within like B2B SaaS, typically you'll see open rates around like 40, 30%, and then reply rates around 10%. And, keep in mind, this is just one simple automation. And so for your SDR and BDR teams, all they really have to do is monitor their inbox. And as long as they get a reply, they just have to go into Salesforce and log that meeting. And so in terms of the rest of the numbers, we've done 59 meetings, 34 opportunities. That translates to around $2 million in pipe. And we've seen around 250K in sourced revenue. And so the revenue number is always going to continue to grow. It's a cohort number, but these are just some of like the early success metrics that we've seen so far. Cool. Moving it one step further, this is actually the UI that you see within like our product. I won't go into it too much. It's pretty simple. It's like a drag and drop editor. I think everyone should be able to like kind of follow along. But yeah, we trigger off of a new visible touch point within Salesforce. If the marketing channel is for paid search, we'll search for those touch points. And then now what we're actually testing is we're trying to test, instead of sending an email that was hard coded that you guys saw previously, now we're taking the keyword as well as the landing page that they hit, and we're sending that over to OpenAI so OpenAI can generate a customized email for us. So this is some of like the responses that we're kind of testing out. And so as you saw in the previous slide, we're passing in the keyword as well as like the landing page. And so you can see here, one of the responses is like, hey, like, we saw that you were looking for integration software. We believe like Workato's ability for embed SaaS integrations, which was like the landing page that they hit, was like, would be a great fit for you guys. Would you be open to having a short call with me? And so one thing I'll say about this is it takes a lot of iteration with the prompting of OpenAI to kind of get to like a good place of, what you would feel comfortable with in terms of like open and or I guess like a good email that they would respond to you with. And so what we still do is, although like OpenAI generates these emails for us, we just sequence it automatically for SDRs, but we still ask them to do like a double check. But even then, it's just much faster for them to do that instead of coming up with their own email. Cool.
Michael, we
I'll
had a
kind of,
couple of questions on a few of these that were over in the chat before we go on to the next one. One of them was the time frame for the 34 ops that you had in there. How long has this been running, and what was that measurement period?
yeah, so that's all within the previous fiscal year, so 1 year time frame.
Okay, great. And this is only for people who were previously cookied via Marketo and Visible, correct?
Mm-hmm. And so this also, just to kind of note, this scales with like how you run your paid acquisition motion. So the more money that you spend within ads, the more people are going to see those ads, and the more leads that you'll actually get from this campaign. And so for us internally, we kind of reduced some of our ad spend. And so this campaign has like slowed down in tandem.
Okay, great. And then just to confirm, the SDR sequences and the emails that go out from there, that's outreach, correct?
Yep, we use Outreach, but you can also use like Gmail, any email service provider as well. Anything works.
Awesome. Other questions on this use case? Y'all can feel free to come off of mute too.
Hi there, it's Jeff Q, up in Vancouver, BC. Michael, thanks for this. Question is, do you have a wait step or a delay or an approval step within your recipe? That after Gen AI generates the email, before it uses Outreach, like, is there a step in there, or is it within the Marketo recipe, or is it within Outreach where the approval allows that email to go out, that cadence?
That's a great question. So there's actually no wait step between OpenAI and Outreach. So as soon as OpenAI generates that email, we'll take that email and send that over to Outreach. But within Outreach itself, we'll set rules where this has to be like a manual email that the SDR sends just for the AI emails. So pretty much it would just require them to like read the email, double check, and click a checkbox to send the email.
All right, so it's creating a draft for them, which they then approve and send manually.
Yep, exactly.
So all right, that's great. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Any other questions? All right. Cool. So the second use case I kind of want to share today is just how we do lead routing internally. And so, you know, actually before like COVID kind of started, for us as a company, we went to a lot of trade shows, we went to a lot of events. Events as a marketing channel was a really big motion for us. And when COVID hit us, everything kind of went digital and virtual, right? And so because of that, our inbound motion had to be frictionless. And so the biggest problem for us was that our tech stack was like super fragmented. I think for us as a marketing team, we probably have around like 20 to 30 marketing apps that we have, and getting all of them like to speak to each other, and using those native integrations was a big pain. Another thing for us was we weren't able to get in touch with leads under 5 minutes, 77% of the time. And so our lead response rates for inbound leads were really poor. And only 40% of those leads were converting to meetings for us. So I'm sure you guys get this question all the time. And I got this question from our CMO, which was, how can we increase pipeline by increasing our conversion rates internally without having to increase spend? And so, we really had to rethink our entire like inbound motion to help improve our efficiency without increasing the amount of money we spend. And so there's this Harvard Business Review article that actually says that if you respond to leads within 5 minutes, you're actually 10x more likely to book a meeting with that prospect. And if we just stop and think about this for a second, right? Like if all of us today are like doing a vendor evaluation and we have like 5 vendors that we want to reach out to, if I submit a demo request to all 5 of those vendors, the first one that gets back to me is the one I'm probably most likely going to not just reply, but have like a active conversation with. And so that's why lead response time is really important. And I have this QR code here. I encourage everyone to kind of scan it. It'll go directly to our website where you can submit a demo request. And it's a fun exercise that I like to do with everyone, just to like, really show the power of like what I'm showing today. So you can scan the code, you can submit a demo request, and you're most likely going to get reached out by one of our reps within 5 minutes. Just keep in mind, like if everyone does it, we only have so many reps, so it might be a little bit delayed. But I encourage everyone to kind of scan it and go along with the exercise. Cool. So I'm gonna skip this slide, but this is just like a kind of high level overview. It's a little bit of an eyesore, but this is just our workflows internally. The next slide is a little bit of a better looking slide, so I'm gonna just jump to that. So this is our inbound flow and what we do internally. So as soon as you go to our webpage and you submit a form, we make a direct API call into Marketo and into Salesforce, as well as to enrichment providers. And all of this happens in like real time. And so what we use internally is Zoom Info and Lead IQ. This can work with any other enrichment provider that also has open APIs like Clearbit, Apollo, anything like that. And so the purpose of the enrichment is actually really important for us because what we do is once you fill out that form, we'll actually make a direct call to, let's say, Zoom Info, and we'll try to figure out what your revenue size is, what your employee size is. On top of that, we'll actually go back into Marketo as well as Salesforce to see if you had any prior engagement with us. And let's say you did, and you are a great like target account that we want to reach out to. Instead of having you fill out like another 2-step form, we'll actually just populate a Chili Piper link directly for you to book a meeting with. And so what we're trying to achieve here is, in essence, creating like a fast lane for prospects to go through. And so if we're able to identify you through enrichment and through Marketo and Salesforce data that you've actively engaged with us prior, instead of having an SDR reach out to you and like having that back and forth engagement to qualify you, we actually just give you a calendar invite to schedule some time directly with one of our AEs. And so let's say you don't fall in that bucket, then you would be required to fill out another form here. Cool. I saw a hand raise. I'll stop there.
Hey, Michael, it's Jeff again. Thank you. So I'm looking at this process here, and what I'm trying to figure out is how are you doing that in 5 minutes? Because I've got a similar structure going on, and I'm using Marketo executables, and I have a webhook that reaches out to our enrichment tool, pulls that data in, and then from that I can identify who the account executive is or the BDR is going to be, and then send them a Calendly link. But it doesn't take, it takes more than 5 minutes. And, some of that has to do with the Marketo Salesforce sync. So you're pushing data in. Now I'm pushing data into Marketo, which then push for inbound, which then pushes into Salesforce. But you made a comment that you're pushing into both at the same time, or which are you leveraging the Marketo Salesforce integration? So the lead gets created in Marketo, then gets created in Salesforce?
Yeah, so what we're doing internally ourselves is the first thing we'll do is we'll search within our databases to see if the lead exists. If
Yep.
it doesn't, then we'll create like a net new lead in both Marketo and Salesforce. Creating it in either one of them and then waiting for it to sync over. That doesn't take too long. In my experience, it takes around like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it still definitely slows down the workflow. And so to be able to bypass that, we'll create it in both systems and just not sync this campaign over.
Okay.
I think
Does-
the other thing here, Michael, just to maybe layer in transparency, is you guys drink your own champagne. So you are using your own tool set for orchestration here as well, rather than relying on Marketo as the backbone. So Marketo is a big piece of this, but it's not necessarily what's kicking off all the different behavior. So rather than looking at something going through a flow step, this is happening in tandem with Marketo processing. So you kind of have a 1-2 punch. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. So everything that you see in the screen arrow, that's like powered by Workato. And so I would think of this workflow as like Workato is like the agent of like processing this entire like data and all of these workflows through these different applications. And so we're not necessarily relying on these specific applications to like help us achieve this. We're more so just like parsing data and then taking that and interacting with other systems that we have as well.
Yep. Okay, I can see that. Thank you.
Cool. And so after either they go through a calendar invite or they fill out a two-step form, we'll actually send the lead directly to Slack. And so internally we have this we have like this tool called Workbot, and that's where all of our SDRs actually work out of. And so our SDRs purely in terms of like applications, they actually don't really interact with Marketo and Salesforce much. They really just work out of Slack and Outreach. And before sending that message to Slack, we'll actually do a secondary API call to pull more enriched data. And so we'll aggregate all of the data within our systems to be able to provide a 360 view for our SDRs within Slack. And on the next couple of slides, I'll show you exactly what that view looks like for our SDRs. But it really simplifies the process and also helps us be able to reach out within 5 minutes because they don't have to jump from application to application and correlate all of that data together. So this is what it looks like exactly for an SDR. It's a little bit of an older version. It's more updated for us right now. But in essence, we provide a 360 view for the SDR, right? So you'll get all of the demographic information from, your enrichment providers. You'll get Salesforce information if that exists, right? Like who the account owner is, how many opportunities we have. You can see like the use case if they type that within the demo request, and then direct links into all of these tools as well. And so this is really helpful for our SDRs because we also create buttons right here for them to actually just interact within Slack without having to jump to Salesforce or like, LinkedIn to do enrichment and things like that. And for me, this is really, really amazing because I actually ask for SDRs to update a lot of information for reporting purposes for our inbound funnel. And so for them to be able to just go directly into Slack and be like, hey, this is a low fit, this is a high fit lead based off of like employee size, title, and things like that. It also saves them a lot of time for them not to have to do that research. And we also give them the ability to like reassign, disqualify the lead if they need to. And so if they want to reassign the lead to maybe a different business unit, maybe like enrichment, failed or something like that, and they want to reassign it to someone else, or they're out of the office and reassign it to someone else, they could also do that all within Slack. And same thing with like disqualifying a lead. And everything they do within Slack, Workato kind of triggers off of that and then updates Salesforce so we can accurately report on that data. Cool. So what we've kind of seen with this process is now we're able to reach out to leads within under 5 minutes. We've doubled our conversion rate from high fit to opportunity. And so previously, from high fit to meeting and meeting to opportunity, we were converting that around 40%. We were able to double that to nearly 70 to 80%. And so just through the, process of like building a more efficient inbound funnel, we were essentially able to double our pipeline because we were able to convert at like 2x the rate. And for our SDR team, it's actually 2x lower in reduction time for them to ramp. And the biggest reason for that is because they don't have to jump from application to application anymore. All they have to do is work within Slack. And so it's less on them to like kind of have to learn new tools within getting onboarded. Cool. I'll stop there before I move on to the third use case. Any other questions on this one?
Hi, this is Chris again. Have you run into any API issues in terms of using API limits or anything like that?
The biggest issue we ran into was actually with Marketo. So we actually had to purchase more API calls with Marketo. But
That's
that
what I
was
figured.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Any other questions? All right. Cool. So our the third use case I wanted to go through is how we kind of run in-person events. And so now that like COVID is kind of dying down, we're getting back into more in-person events and booths and trade shows. And so the pain for us really is, I'm sure a lot of you here have been to like a trade show or, stopped by a booth. Um, the biggest pain point that we've seen internally is that, when you have these conversations with people at booths, you scan their badge, right? But scanning, a badge scan really doesn't mean much anymore because, you scan their badge and then you have to wait for the vendor to, maybe 3 to 5 days for them to give you the entire lead list. You often forget like the conversation that you had with the person that you're talking to. And I can tell you from firsthand, like I like was manning a booth, I scanned a bunch of badges and I don't remember anyone's name. And so the post follow-up process is really tedious. It's hard to do and it's really not personalized. And often you can forget the conversation and you get a lot of like fragmented data because of that. And so, we took a step back and kind of just thought, ideally, what would be the best process? And then how could we automate that process? And so what we've decided to do is, this is the entire process that you see today. But for every trade show and event that we go to, what we do is we create a specific email alias within a Google group. And so let's say, if there's like Adobe Summit, right, we'll create adobe@workato.com. And before all of the reps go to Adobe Summit, we'll actually give them this email alias. And as you're having a conversation with one of our reps on the show floor, like naturally, if they say, hey, this is really interesting, I really want to learn more. What we actually do is we tell our reps to just pull out their phone, open up Google Calendar, and just book a meeting with them directly on the spot. And what triggers this automation is for them to put adobe@workato.com within the email invite as well. But being able to just pull out your phone, finding some time with the prospect like face to face, not only encourages like them to feel pressure to accept the meeting on the spot, but also you're able to type in like the notes of the conversation. Um, you can find a time directly that like matches with them instead of like having to reach out after the event. And so it really just speeds up the process as well as, getting that good conversion rate and, keeping in touch with the lead while it's hot. And so as soon as you invite the email alias onto the invite, what we do from there is this is our lead upload process. We take that lead and we just throw it into enrichment, right? So same thing, we throw into ZoomInfo, lead IQ, we'll enrich all of the data, and then we'll just plug it into the corresponding Marketo and Salesforce campaigns. And actually from there, we use our custom Workato like lead bot as well as routing. And so we'll go into Salesforce, find the proper AE and SDR pairings, and then we'll actually send a message directly to either that AE on Slack, or, we can send an additional email with an outreach. And so, this process has helped us a lot because we still do lead uploads for people that we don't book meetings with on the show floor. But for the people that we actually want to have like good engagement conversations with, we've been able to like double our conversion rate from like meeting scheduled to meeting attended, as well as meeting attended to opportunity. And so I kind of went through the impact a little bit, and on the right is just a very like brief screenshot of like the process that we run internally within our application, within our product. And so, yeah, it's helped with our speed to lead, right? We're able to follow up with leads like right after the conference. And I think most importantly is like, we're also able to remember the conversation, right? The notes that you store within the Google Calendar invite, we're able to also plug that directly into a Salesforce campaign, as well as any field within like Marketo as well. So you could like accurately report and look at like those notes from the conversation. Cool. So I'll stop there. Any questions on this one? How many recipes you need for this flow? So we actually just duplicate the recipe for every event, but it's only one recipe. that's powering the event. And the reason why we duplicate is because we just need to switch out the aliases. Cool. Any other questions?
Michael, one question that I have, and this is Brooke, the recipes that you have in here, obviously you work at Workato, so you're probably not beholden to the same restrictions the rest of us have. But if someone else were to consider implementing something like this, would you recommend that they be on a Workato plan that's based on recipes or based on steps?
So our pricing really just goes through workflows, but outside of just like even doing this within Workato, I think like, you know, a lot of people can also achieve this with like developer help. If it's just a really simple use case that's not like touching many applications, I'd also recommend like Zapier. But you really don't need, I would say like, you know, an integration platform to really get this started. Like we're just able to do this and it helps us a lot. But also just like using developer resources can help you get here too. It might just be more complicated.
Great, thank you.
Cool. All right, so the last one that I wanted to go through is a Gen I use case. This is more in the sales operations world, but also is something that like, you know, I work very closely with at Workato. And so the problem that we have today is, you know, our AEs and our sellers really have like a love and hate relationship within Salesforce. They hate updating fields like medpick fields, but they have to use Salesforce to like interact and like close and move their deals, right? What we've noticed is that, you know, an average typical response time after an AE has a call with one of our prospects is around 11.2 hours. And I think that's actually like a super long response time. It creates like, you know, a worse relationship with the prospect, and it doesn't feel as personalized. And so the problems that we've noticed were because we're like following up with deals and it takes a longer time, where we have longer deal cycles and lower pipeline conversion. And so what we've actually done to solve this is we built a automated follow-up using Gen AI. And so what we do is after every single Gong call, what we'll do is we'll take that Gong transcript. We'll also pull in any relevant information directly from Salesforce and Marketo, Snowflake enrichment tools, and populate like a 360 view. This is just a very like simplified version that we send to our AEs. But we send them this Slack notification. And we give them two options, right? So there's two buttons at the bottom. One is to be able to confirm the Salesforce notes. And so what we actually do is we take that transcript, we pass it over to OpenAI, and we'll summarize the notes and just show them a summary within these two buttons. And then we also do the same thing with drafting a follow-up email. And so I'll actually show you guys a live demo of what we do here. But this is actually pretty cool because after they confirm their Salesforce notes, we pass that back into Salesforce as well as Marketo, and it really helps with our follow-up time. So let me just quickly share, switch my screen.
So I'm really curious about consent in regards to that. Like if you're having these conversations pushed over to Gen AI, is it really clear to your prospects that this is happening?
Yeah, so we have an enterprise OpenAI connector, and it's gone through like SOC 2 security and everything like that. So all of the information that we're passing over to OpenAI is also masked. And so the information that we pass in, like PII information, all of that is masked. And then the information that passes back is also masked. And then we use Workato to unmask the data and then send over an email.
They're very cool. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. So this is my Slack instance. This is just kind of what it looks like. This is, again, like a very simplified version with like, you know, the Silicon Valley like characters use case. So imagine like a new Gong call just finished, and then I get this data. you can see the entire Gong transcript right here. You know, so in case you want to review it, you could look at the entire transcript. And then as an AE or SDR or CSM, right, like all you really have to do is interact with these two buttons. And so I can click confirm Salesforce notes. Are you guys able to see this pop-up that comes up? I'm not too sure.
We
Yeah.
do, yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, what's really cool is before we even send this message, we've already sent the transcript over to OpenAI. And so it already summarizes the notes and it just puts it all within like this interface for the rep to read. And so it makes the rep's job really simple. All they have to do is read this, make sure that it looks right. Let's say like everything down here is incorrect. They could just delete that. You know, same thing with the next steps. They can expand this a little bit and just kind of look at all of the next steps are provided. You know, maybe there's like quite a lot. And so like we want to reduce all of this and just use these three. And then you can just click confirm. And so what it does is using Workato, we just take all of this data that was confirmed by the sales rep and we make a direct API call over to Salesforce and just update the notes for them as well. We also take this data and pass it back into like the contact within Marketo. And so we can store all of these notes on like an ongoing basis. So that's the first one. The second one is also really similar, but this is drafting up a follow-up email. And so all of these fields that you guys see here, by the way, are just fields that we ask that helps us prompt OpenAI to generate that email. So for example, we need to tell OpenAI like, hey, like this is the recap of the last meeting. These are the next steps. This is who we want to send it to. And using Workato, like we pre-fill this data to make it a little bit easier. And on all we really ask is for the rep to like confirm the type and the tone of the email. And so maybe we can say this is like an introduction, or actually let's do like a follow-up email. And then, I don't know, just for fun, we can do like a sort of tone. And then we can click draft email. And so what's happening right now is in real time, everything that we just passed in through that form is getting sent over to OpenAI, and then it's returning an email for them to send. And maybe this is a little bit too lengthy because we didn't like cut down the next steps, but you can see like this is a real-time email that was generated through OpenAI. And let's say like you're not too happy with this email. One, you could review the email and cut it down yourself before you send it to outreach, or you could just go through that entire process again and have OpenAI generate a brand new email. So let's say like we just want to review this email. Now you can just pick any owner, right? So I can also pick to send this on someone else's behalf, but I'll just pick myself. And then just for testing purposes, like, you know, you can put in like a sequence ID. I'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can read and like confirm that the email looks correct. And then just click submit. Cool. And then the email just gets directly assigned into outreach, and you can set up like your own rules if you want that to be like sent out automatically, or you know, if you want like another manual step to review.
Are you having the AI handle based off of like the level of person that you're speaking to, such as C-suite or sales or what have you?
Do you mean like, are we personalizing based off like seniority?
Kind of, yeah. So I guess you could do it by the tone or something like that. But in terms of respective reply email and follow up and things like that, having different tones or different content based off of seniority has been a common ask from my clients.
I see. Yeah, we can definitely just, you know, like change up like the way we want to pass in the parameters over to OpenAI. We don't do that today, but it's a possibility.
Thank you.
Cool. So that was the last use case.
Awesome. Obviously, if there are questions, you know, after the fact, feel free to send those to Brooke and I to process, or if you're connecting with Michael directly on LinkedIn, which I think he's open to, both our avenues. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. We'll wrap up. So if there are any questions that you did want to have in the recording, we can do those now. And then we'll go from there. But before we finish the recording, I just want to say, Michael, thank you for joining us today. This has been great.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.